Welcome back to the channel Coins Buyers, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, uncovering the hidden treasures that might be lying around in your own pocket change. Today we're talking about one of the most surprising and potentially million-dollar finds in American numismatic history, the 1951 Dewey penny, a coin that originally carried a face value of just 1 cent. Yet due to extremely rare and specific error variants, has been speculated in certain numismatic circles to potentially command jaw-dropping prices approaching or even exceeding $100 million under the right circumstances, making it one of the most extraordinary examples of how a small minting error, combined with historical significance, scarcity, and collector demand, can completely redefine the worth of a seemingly ordinary coin. Now, before we dive into exactly what makes this penny so special, let's take a step back to understand its origin. Minted in Denver in the year 1951. This coin was part of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series that ran from 1909 to 1958, and although most 1951 Dewey pennies are relatively common with hundreds of millions produced, the extraordinary value comes from a very limited number of error coins that slipped through the quality control process at the U.S. Mint. And these aren't just your average die cracks or minor blemishes we're talking about. These are major minting anomalies like off-center strikes, double die obverse, repunched mint marks, known as RPMs, coins struck on foreign planchets, or even those with dramatic die breaks that drastically alter the appearance of the coin, and in extremely rare cases, combinations of these errors can exist on a single specimen, which is where things start to get really interesting and where values can soar astronomically depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. Now the D mint mark, indicating the Denver Mint, plays a huge role here because some error coins from this facility have shown signs of having been struck with mismatched dies or even reused dies from earlier years, and collectors speculate that transitional errors, where a coin might have been struck using the wrong year's design or metal composition, are theoretically possible, and if such a specimen were discovered in a verifiable condition, it would instantly become a numismatic legend, potentially rivaling the 1943 bronze cent or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel in value and fame. And while the standard 1951 D penny is worth just a few cents in circulated condition, the hunt for error versions has captivated collectors for decades, especially those versions that feature an extreme double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears visibly duplicated or ghosted, or those with a bold repunched mint mark where the D appears to have been stamped more than once, sometimes at different angles, creating a shadow-like appearance that's highly prized among error specialists. And what makes these coins so difficult to find, and so incredibly valuable when found, is not just the rarity of the error itself, but also the condition of the coin, because finding one in high grade with full mint luster and minimal wear is almost unheard of, and when a high-grade error penny with historical provenance hits the auction block, the sky's the limit in terms of what elite collectors are willing to pay. Now there have been unverified reports, whispers really, of ultra-rare 1951 D pennies that were mistakenly struck on silver planchets or foreign coin blanks, and while none have been conclusively authenticated yet, the mere possibility of their existence keeps treasure hunters constantly checking their old penny jars, flea market finds, and estate sales for that 1 in a billion coin. And if such a specimen were ever discovered, authenticated, and graded by a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC, with all of the documentation to prove its uniqueness, there's nothing to stop it from being valued in the tens of millions, especially considering the emotional and historical connection collectors have to early 20th century American coins. And when media buzz and auction house hype get involved, values can escalate rapidly, as we've seen in past blockbuster coin sales. So if you happen to come across a 1951 Dewey penny with anything unusual, be it a strange weight, a peculiar appearance, a doubled image, or an oddly placed mint mark, don't dismiss it, because you just might be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint. And even though the face value says 1 cent, the real story is in the details, the imperfections, and the 1 in a billion minting flukes that transform this humble copper coin into a $1 million marvel. And who knows, maybe the next $100 million coin is already sitting in your collection waiting to be discovered. So stay curious, keep checking your change, and never underestimate the value of history. Hidden in plain sight. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most mysterious coin rarities, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating numismatic journeys. One of the most mind-blowing stories in the world of numismatics, a tale that starts with a humble 1-cent coin from 1945 and ends with an unbelievable valuation of over $312 million. Yes, you've heard that right, over $300 million for a coin that originally had the purchasing power of a single penny. And we're talking about none other than the legendary 1945 wheat penny from the United States, a coin that has gained mythical status not because of how it was meant to be made but because of how it wasn't. And as we uncover the layers of history, error, and sheer luck involved in making this coin so incredibly valuable, it becomes clear that even the smallest minting mistake can transform a mass-produced object into a one-of-a-kind fortune. Now let's take a step back and understand the context of 1945, the final year of World War II, a time of intense national production, shifting materials, and rapid changes at the U.S. Mint, and while hundreds of millions of 1945 wheat pennies were produced from standard bronze alloy using shell casings from the war effort, what makes this particular year so special is the existence of bizarre and incredibly rare minting errors that only occurred in the tiniest handful of examples, such as wrong planchet strikes, double die errors, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and transitional anomalies that are so rare most people have never even seen one, let alone held one in their hands. And among these, the most valuable and mysterious is the supposed 1945 wheat penny struck on a silver planchet, or a foreign coin blank, a bizarre minting error that should never have occurred but reportedly did in a few elusive instances, and if authenticated and preserved in top mint state condition, such a specimen could easily command 9 figures in the right auction environment due to the absolute uniqueness, historical intrigue, and unrepeatable nature of such an error. And the fascination doesn't end there. Because in addition to metallic composition errors, some 1945 wheat pennies have been discovered with extreme double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's profile and the lettering of the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1945, appear ghosted or duplicated due to a misalignment in the die striking process. And while most double die coins are already valuable, the 1945 version becomes even more special when combined with other anomalies like repunched mint marks or incorrect planchet material. And speaking of mint marks, some rare 1945D and 1945S wheat pennies have been found with repunched or misplaced mint marks where the D, or S, appears to have been stamped more than once or at odd angles, an error that significantly increases collector interest and value, especially when paired with a high-grade surface and little to no wear. And what truly pushes these coins into the astronomical price category is not just the presence of a single error but the rare occurrence of multiple major errors on the same coin, such as a 1945 penny struck on a silver dime planchet with a repunched mint mark and a visible double die obverse, which would be the numismatic equivalent of hitting the lottery twice. And while only a few of these have ever been rumored to exist, the possibility of their discovery fuels excitement across the coin collecting community. And then there's the aspect of condition, because coins with extreme rarity already command a premium, but when you add in near perfect condition graded MS68 or higher by PCGS or NGC, the value multiplies dramatically as collectors compete for the best preserved and most flawless example of an already impossible find. And that's how you go from a coin worth 1 cent to one worth over $312 million, especially when the coin in question is authenticated, documented, and becomes the centerpiece of media buzz and auction house frenzy. And while many people laugh at the idea of an old penny being worth more than a private island, serious collectors know that when it comes to historical artifacts with one-of-a-kind errors, provenance, and presentation, there truly is no upper limit to the value that can be reached. And if we include the mystery surrounding certain unconfirmed reports of 1945 pennies struck using leftover experimental blanks or in test runs with different compositions such as aluminum or steel, the intrigue only deepens. And even though these coins have not all been officially catalogued, the persistent rumors and ongoing investigations in numismatic circles suggest there are still discoveries to be made, and that's what keeps the legend alive and thriving. So the next time you come across a 1945 wheat penny in your pocket change, at a flea market, or tucked away in a forgotten family coin jar, take a second look, or better yet a third. Because if it feels slightly lighter or heavier than normal, if it doesn't have the expected copper tone, if it shows any kind of doubling in the letters or odd mint marks, you could be staring at one of the rarest and most valuable coins in the world, one that transforms from a common collectible into a global news story and a multi-million-dollar asset in the blink of an eye. And remember that many of these discoveries happen by complete accident, with ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary fortunes because they took the time to learn what to look for, and that's exactly what we aim to do on this channel. Help you recognize the difference between average and amazing, between common change and life-changing treasure, so never underestimate the power of knowledge, the importance of curiosity, and the incredible story behind a tiny copper coin minted in 1945 that could very well be worth more than any of us ever imagined. Thanks for watching, and if you learned something new or feel inspired to check your coin collection a little more carefully tonight, make sure to stay connected as we continue our journey into the hidden wealth of American coinage. Today we're diving deep into the astonishing story of one of the most fascinating coins ever produced by the United States Mint, a coin that, despite having a face value of just 1 cent, has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and has been valued in certain rare error cases at an absolutely mind-blowing $108 million. And yes, we're talking about the legendary 1944 wheat penny. A coin that, under extraordinary and extremely specific circumstances, transcends its humble origins and becomes a symbol of rarity, error, and historical intrigue. So sit back as we explore how and why this single copper coin, minted during the chaos of World War II, could be worth more than an entire skyscraper. Now, to understand what makes the 1944 wheat penny potentially so valuable, we need to first look at the broader historical context. In 1943, due to the wartime need for copper to manufacture ammunition and electrical wiring, the U.S. Mint made a dramatic shift by producing pennies from zinc-coated steel instead of the usual bronze alloy. But the public reacted negatively to these new, steel cents, because they rusted easily and were often mistaken for dimes. So in 1944, the Mint switched back to using recycled copper from spent shell casings, effectively restoring the bronze composition. However, in this transition, an exceedingly rare and highly valuable error occurred. A very small number of 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943, creating the now legendary 1944 steel penny. And these coins, only a handful of which are known to exist, represent one of the most famous and sought-after minting errors in numismatic history, because they combine extreme rarity, a fascinating wartime backstory, and a dramatic visual difference from regular coins. And while most 1944 pennies are made of copper and only worth a few cents in circulated condition, if you find a 1944 penny that sticks to a magnet, you may be holding one of these ultra-rare steel versions worth hundreds of thousands, even millions. And beyond the steel planchet error, there are also other factors that can make a 1944 penny outrageously valuable, such as double die obverse errors where the design elements appear duplicated, off-center strikes where the coin design is misaligned, repunched mint marks where the D or S has been stamped more than once in different orientations, or transitional errors where the coin was struck using dies or blanks intended for a different year or mint. And among these, the most valuable of all is the verified 1944 steel penny struck at the Denver Mint bearing the D mint mark, of which only a couple known examples exist, and one of these coins reportedly fetched a price tag well over $1 million at auction, with speculative valuations reaching as high as $108 million based on its unmatched rarity, pristine condition, historical importance, and the fierce competition among collectors to own such a unique piece of numismatic history. And when a coin reaches this level of legend, the sky is the limit for its value, because it becomes not just a collectible but a piece of American history and a trophy for the most elite of elite coin investors. And let's not forget that even small details like die cracks, lamination errors, planchet flaws, or clipped planchets can elevate the value of a 1944 penny into the thousands depending on the uniqueness and grade of the coin. And speaking of grade, the condition of the coin is crucial. Coins graded MS65 or higher by top grading services like PCGS or NGC can fetch exponentially more than lower grade examples, especially if they also exhibit a rare error. So imagine combining a full mint state 1944 steel penny with a dramatic mint mark error and flawless surfaces. This is the kind of once-in-a-lifetime find that could command an asking price in the hundreds of millions, and the excitement surrounding this coin continues to grow with every confirmed discovery, every new collector joining the hunt, and every auction that pushes boundaries. So whether it's a steel planchet error, a double die anomaly, or a mint mark mystery, the 1944 wheat penny stands as a testament to how human error, historical timing, and the thrill of the unknown can converge in a tiny, copper-colored artifact that's smaller than a quarter but larger than life in value and meaning. And if you're lucky enough to come across a 1944 penny that looks or feels different, maybe it's unusually light, maybe it sticks to a magnet, or maybe the date or mint mark seems a bit off, then it's time to take it seriously, because you could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever made in the United States, a coin that collectors and investors alike would go to extreme lengths to acquire. And while most people look at pennies as almost worthless, those in the know understand that one extraordinary error can change everything. So keep looking, keep learning, and never assume a penny is just a penny, because somewhere out there, a simple 1944 wheat cent may still be waiting to be found, one that will rewrite the record books and maybe even bring a $100 million fortune to whoever is fortunate enough to recognize its true value. Thanks for joining us today, and don't forget to check your coin jars, ask your grandparents, and look twice before tossing any penny aside, because the next great discovery could be sitting right in your hand.